Hello, Xbox Nation. Welcome to the special edition episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, MrBooMStickXL, and as you can tell, we have a small panel, but one of two members is someone that you know him as the outstanding and sensational voice of his own podcast, and he also is the lead I guess you'd say dog at TheRock.com. Please welcome Brad Sams. Welcome, Brad.
Appreciate it. This has been, I wouldn't say a long time coming, but this is, I believe, my second time coming back, right? I think it was at 10,000 subscribers, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
And then we would joke and be like, I'll come back when I hit 20. And 20 was like last week or 2 weeks ago. And here we are. We gotta, I think we'll make the promise now that when 40 happens, I'll be back, right? That's I think we can't let this theory or this little thing die.
Well, you know what? Obviously, if you didn't know the story behind this whole situation, I had heard Brad. When you watch a lot of YouTube like I do, you get a chance, you get stuff that pops up in your feed, and of course, at some point or another, Brad Sam's show popped up, and I saw him, and then I was like, oh, okay, let me check out some of his stuff. He talks about Xbox. This is cool. And then I heard him on RDX, the little show run by Dealer Gaming. And I said, you know what? I got to get this guy on here. So I reached out to him, and like a gentleman, he responded. And he said, listen, I'll tell you, I'll make you a deal. When I get to 10,000 subs, I will, of course, come on your show. So like a good soldier, I didn't have to promote him, but I went out there and did it anyway. And at 10,000 subs, sure enough, he came on. I believe it was the beginning of 2019, and we had a great show. And you know what? As he was leaving, he said, "I'll come back at 20." And here we are at 20,000 subs. A man of his word. So, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We're going to get into a really big topic, and we only have him for a limited time. He's only got 30 or 40 minutes to spend, so we're going to get right to the topic. But of course, there is someone else on this panel, and he has become a fan favorite with the community. Also, the lovely and incredibly impressive voice of the trophy room. Please welcome Mr. Bad Bits.
It's official. PlayStation is part of the MCU. Really excited about it. Ever since, what is it? Infinity War with the Fortnite PS4 cameo. I always had a feeling this day would happen. It's finally here. What's up? How's everybody doing?
Well, it's great. It's great to have you. So listen, you know what? We're going to cut through the grass, and we're going to get right into it. Now, look, with the community split with last Thursday's Inside Xbox, and really harping on the words gameplay being overused by Xbox executive Aaron Greenberg, the real big question that most people, including myself, are asking is, what now? Now, as I sat here typing the show notes the other day for today's show, I wondered many different approaches that Jared West would use to set the tone for the much anticipated July party, a first party showcase. Now, if you don't know who Jared West is, it's someone I've been talking about for quite some time. He was the head. He was in charge of making the Xbox 360 what it was. His advertising prowess was nothing short of amazing. And he left the company just as the Xbox One was launching. And you know what? You can see a tremendous difference. Obviously, we know what happened in 2013. But in December, and I believe it was December 1st, he was rehired by Microsoft to carry the baton known as the Xbox Series X and S potentially for the next generation. And so far, so good. Now, I've written several questions for the first topic for, of course, Brad and Mr. Badbit, and I'm hoping that they will be able to elaborate on them. So, Brad, I want to go to you first. The May 7th event was labeled as the first gameplay reveal for the Xbox Series X titles. And of course, the one leading the charge was Assassin's Creed, and we understand what happened with that. It was a bit of a letdown. But you know what? The marketing team now has what I believe to be a tremendous amount of pressure to respond to the the outspoken criticism regarding the May 7th event. And they've been doing an outstanding job. There's no doubt about it. They have been hitting home run bombs for months on end. And this was a bit of a trip up. In your opinion, how does the Microsoft marketing team, led by Jarrett West, handle this situation?
So I think you hit on a really good point right before the May 7th event. Up until now, Microsoft has really been in this nice marching cadence of, hey, we're going to announce something. It was really well done. It was a high production value. It was like really deep information depending on, what they were announcing. They had good technical write-ups. They had all the bits and pieces in places. And so the challenge with Microsoft leading up to this event is that, to your point, they were doing so well. And so anything less than, honestly, perfection on May 7th was going to be a letdown.
Yes.
And so part of it was they were doomed by their own success leading up to this, because people were like, oh my God, they surprised us with things every time they announced something. So people are sitting there going, okay, where's the big surprise? Where's the big surprise? And they didn't have one. And that's okay. They don't have to have some massive reveal every single time. But they had that expectation because they had done it at every single turn leading up to that. And then they also promised all this gameplay, which, let's be honest, wasn't really there. It was a lot of just kind of fancy, I don't want to call them trailers because it was technically in-game stuff, but you guys know, everybody
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
In-game engine stuff running,
Yeah, right. And so the problem was they were already up on such a high plateau, and then they came out with something that if they would have just called that Inside Xbox, nobody would have said anything. They would have been like, oh, this is great. This is fine. Here's some cool games that are coming. Everyone would have been like, okay, cool. Whatever. This is a May event. But the fact that they came out and teed it up so high is kind of what set them up for failure, in my opinion. Now, the question is what do they do about this, right? Like they're sitting in this sort of like, and part of me, I would love to tell you, but I don't think this is true. I would love to tell you that they looked at their lineup because, right, they've already announced these inside or whatever Xbox 2020 events, everything up to launch. And I'm hoping that they looked at it and said, we're going to lead off with the worst one first, right? We need to amplify it as we go along. And how are we going to do that? Let's get these games some promotion. We'll show things off. And each following one will be slightly elevated. We don't quite know what their full plan is yet, but I suspect that their communications are going to be much more concise.
Oh, yeah.
And also keep in mind, this was the first event that they had where they were not able to really sit in the same room and plan all this stuff. Remember, just like all of us and everybody else working, they're all remote. And so those have their own challenges involved. Microsoft, obviously, candidly, the best thing that came out of this was that Microsoft looked back and said, and they were honest. They're like, yeah, that probably wasn't our best showing. And so that is incredibly important. They're not digging their heels and be like, look, we promised what we said. Like, they're humble. They get it. And they're going to move on and they're going to improve. That is the best thing that could have come out of this, is that Microsoft isn't being dense.
That's a great, I want to follow up the first question with this one. Now, you saw immediately, and we talked about it last night on Primetime Gaming, Aaron Greenberg immediately went to Twitter. And he made a statement regarding the event, and he basically owned the fact that they overhyped it and that they got people's excitement levels higher than they should have been. Did you think that was the right move for more specifically Aaron Greenberg? Because he was the rah guy leading up to this event.
Yeah, I need to, I don't know if I can pull it up quick enough, but there's a thing that happens at Microsoft where you'll get an email from like PR or whatever, and they'll be like, hey, about that tweet you sent out. He actually sent out another one today talking about the 60 frames per second baseline.
Yes.
I'm hoping you guys all said it. I can guarantee you that started from an email from somebody that says, hey, you need to correct this because now everyone's going to be like, every game's 60 frames per second guaranteed, but it's not, right? It's going to be up to the developer. It's.
Do you think that's going to be an issue? I'm sorry if.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
Like, do you think that is because I've been thinking about this? Like, Sony's been kind of pretty quiet about things, very much so, and I'm like, is that silence kind of to Sony's benefit? Because the way I've seen it, Microsoft has been very bullish about like 60 FPS. Put that asterisk on it now. Do you think that their messaging they kind of went out a little bit too fast before the developers were able to actually, get their PR in order? Do you think, like, I guess
it's a good
Microsoft kind of one step ahead, of their partners?
No, it's a really good question because there's two dynamics going on right now. One, I mean, we got to be candid, right? PlayStation outsold Xbox this generation roughly 2-1. Those are the
Sure.
facts. You can't change that. And Microsoft right now sees that there is a massive thirst out there for Xbox information. And
Yes.
Microsoft is in the position to start dishing out information at their own. Phil Spencer is doing things his own way, which is great. A big fan of Phil. He's a super nice guy. He's very humble. But to your point, there's realities in there as well. As Microsoft can come out and say, hey, look, we went to all of our first party developers and said, every game you make has to be 60 frames per second. That is it. Now, third parties don't have to abide by that. And so that might be the dynamic that we are seeing, because to me, it's a much easier, well, it's a hard pill to swallow for me to go out and say, spend $500, let's say that's the price of the Series X, and then knowing the games aren't going to be 60 frames per second, because we all know what 30 frames per second gaming looks like. 60 frames per second, it's a huge improvement.
Yes.
And so my gut tells me here, especially what we've seen with Mr. Greenberg on the Twitters, is that Microsoft first party games have the mandate it's got to be 60 frames per second. And then third party games, it's like, you know what, it's your game, do what you want. But that's, I think, where that friction is probably coming from. At least that's what I'm hoping is the issue. Now, are they getting too far out in front by promising some of this stuff, and now we see them clawing it back? I don't know. We kind of got to wait and see. Sony is either sitting there with like really brilliant marketing and they've got this all figured out, and they're just marching along and they're just waiting for their time, which could be completely plausible, or they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're like, we're scrambling here. Our developers are building games, but we're not hitting the performance or whatever. Sony's been very quiet and they're hoping to surprise people, I think, is their goal. Whereas Microsoft is being just incredibly transparent along the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Badbit, let's bring you into the conversation regarding this. What were your opinions on this? You know, as someone that you yourself are in the marketing business, you've talked about that before. You know, a lot of people have said, and I think you even said this, you know, Microsoft has an uphill battle for the July event because the expectations now are going to be through the roof, not just because they're showing first party games, because people are going to want to see how they respond to the so-called failings of the May 7th event. So there's pressure on both sides. Kind of, they're in the middle being squished, kind of like the trash compactor. Throw a little Star Wars in there. You know,
all right, I'm on board with this.
How does Microsoft respond?
To me, first off, I don't think, you know, again, I'll take the Michael Pachter quote. This is one quiz. They may have not done the best on the quiz, but there's many quizzes to come. So This is very much a learning experience for Microsoft. And yeah, we're going to have a June event. We're going to have a July event, August, September. So they're going to nail it down tight as to what inside Xboxes are going forward and what the expectations are going forward. So I think they've definitely learned from this one. I don't think it's the end of the world, house is on fire, but I do think there needs to be some type of scaling back a little bit on the bullish messaging that they have and kind of focus on what each inside Xbox is truly about. And you know, when we talk about the 30 FPS for Assassin's Creed, I read that as like, you know, right now it's 30 FPS. That's what we have right now, but it could go upwards to 60. So it was kind of Ubisoft trying to be in lockstep with where they are in development and not promising something that, not to say that they're not 100% sure they can or can't hit that, but they aren't 100% sure on. So I hope, listen, if it's 60 FPS, that's fine. That's great. If it's not, I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do think Microsoft has to start just tweaking the messaging a little bit in terms of how they're marketing the Series X, because is it the worst look in the world that this thing can't run 60 FPS? No, but at the same exact time, you know, like what Brad said, I can't go out there and say, you know, Xbox Series 1 and PS5 is a must get right now in year one, day one, because yeah, the developers are still learning how these boxes or what it takes to code on these boxes. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. Like we saw in this generation, it took 2 to 3 years of them kind of going, all right, this is what this console's capable of, and start pushing that hardware more and more so. So to me, it's not the end of the world. I just kind of think that, yeah, Xbox's marketing got a little bit ahead of themselves. And I think the only thing, I think the only really challenging thing is how to get in lockstep with your partners, because I feel like they're going to be lockstep with their first party. That's going to be easy.
Of course, yeah.
But
Even their
yeah.
second party stuff, I'm sure that they're going to be on par with.
Yeah. So third party, your Ubisoft, your EA, your Activision, how do you communicate with them in the situation that we have right now?
Well, listen. First of all, great rebuttal. Really, thought provoking. I love the answers both of you guys brought to the table. And there is a second part to this, but real quick, let me just get a super chat for Robert Jones, a good friend of the show. He drops an outstanding and very generous $12 super chat and says this: just wanted to say, no matter what Xbox does, it will never be enough. Why? Because the Sony vocal minority is significantly larger than the Xbox vocal minority. I mean, there is some truth to that. I mean, Xbox, they lost this generation, and there are a lot of people that want to continue to see them lose. I'm not one of them. I'd like to see everyone win.
Yep.
But Brad, I want to bring you back into the conversation, because the second part of this topic, I want to talk about Mike Ybarra for a second. And now Mike, obviously, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you know who he is. Mike is, he's only a general manager over at Blizzard. I used to work at Microsoft. He's a very brash, forward-thinking and forward-speaking individual within the gaming industry. He is a gamer. He gets on social media, more specifically Twitter, and gives his opinion. And he did just that literally hours after the May 7th Microsoft event. And this is what he had to say. He said, instead of monthly events for building hype towards next-gen consoles, give me monthly 20 minutes of a dev or two talking about their upcoming game, how they're taking advantage of the next-gen tech, some gameplay, and their perspective on how exciting a time it is for players. #focus. Now, I wrote this particular show 2 days ago, and at the time it had received 170 retweets and over 1,300 favorites. And obviously there's a lot to unpack for this particular question. And Brad, I'm going to go to you first. Now, obviously we have seen two different examples of the difficulties it is to produce a show from your home. Like for instance, Greeny, who is, you can tell he's just an excitable kind of a guy. I got a chance to meet him at E3. He is genuine, one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's very excited about gaming, and it came through. But of course, he's doing this from his kitchen. And of course, a lot of people complained, including myself, about the camera quality, and it was very fuzzy and it wasn't done, professional. The question is, and again, it was raised on last night's primetime gaming, Brad. How does Microsoft do this? Do they just do video on demand uploads, or do they continue the streaming and hope for the best? Because if they can do these, deep dives with a developer, and their video on demand, and they're immediately uploaded, they could be in 4K. You're going to get the best look of it. Mm-hmm. And 20 minutes on one particular game will give a really good insight without having to share the screen time. Do you agree with Mike on this?
So there's some hilariousness to all of this. And I guarantee there's somebody, it might even be Phil for all that we know, that is sitting back in his office, just like pouring beers, going like, I tried to give the people what they wanted, and now they're mad at me. Because for a while, all we hear about is Xbox needs games. There's no games. Where are all the games? And so they talked about games, and then people are coming out and saying, no, we don't want to hear about games. We want to hear about game developers. Like, you got to pick
exactly.
Your vocal attack. Now, I don't disagree with what Mike said about wanting that information. Don't get me wrong. I very much want to see a deep technical dive on all the hardware and what developers are doing and all that stuff. But there's a place for that. That is not inside Xbox. That is a game developer conference style material. What he is asking for are things that he wants to know. How are they doing ray tracing? What's the perf hit on something like that? What's the bandwidth throttles that are in place for when things get to like that? That should not be shown alongside this stuff. This event was intended to hype up games that you'll be able to play on your next generation console. That is how it was pitched. And I think Mike is going for a different bent. So that is one way. Like I look at this, I'm like, it's like, Mike, you're right, but you know as well as everybody else does, this was not, Microsoft never went up there and said, hey guys, we're going to tell you about all the technical details of the processor that we built and how ray tracing is going to work on the console and let the developers tell that story. This was not intended to be that event. I very strongly believe we're going to get that information sooner rather than later, because that is a Microsoft's pipeline of information that is coming down. But at the same time, Microsoft just has to be cautious. Again, we got to what you guys were talking about earlier, they've got to be in lockstep marketing and making sure that what they're going to talk about and when they're going to talk about it is very clearly enunciated to make sure expectations are set correctly for everybody going forward.
I mean, that's again, once again, perfectly said. I agree 100%. And we're gonna bring in our marketing manager, known as Mr. Badbit. Marketing manager, put your hat on, and let's talk about this for a second. Your virtual hat. You know, Mike puts it out there that this is what he wants. And Brad actually had some really good information regarding, what he's asking for. And I agree is something that you would find more at GDC than you would find at an Inside Xbox or even an Xbox event. I think that if they wanted to maybe at the end of the show save something for, a technical dive into what they're doing for the, Slip Space engine. Right. If they wanted to kind of save the halo for the end, say, oh, yeah, this is where we're adding ray tracing. This is where we're adding the shine. This is where Master Chief is getting that, that special look or whatever, where the armor looks real. Yeah. People might be interested. But at the end of the day, gamers want games. Yep. And I, once again, agree with Brad because I think that they delivered in the games. I saw gameplay. It wasn't what I wanted. Like, for instance, I said this last night. For Assassin's Creed, I was disappointed because I wanted a controller in hand with the producer, and even if it would have been 3 minutes, 90 seconds, 120 seconds, maybe give me 5 minutes of him running around the town, jumping off or whatever. It would have been. I think people would have walked away very satisfied if they would have gotten that. But we know what happened, so we're not going to reiterate that again. For you personally. What do you want to see a more streamlined events where they're giving, a particular title its spotlight due, if you will?
To me personally, I do like Ybarra's idea because that's personally what I want in almost every presentation. Get in the weeds, let's get weird, let's get nerdy, let's that sounds like a good time to me. And to an extent, Inside Xbox, at least from where I've been outside looking in, it's kind of a little bit about that. They are a lot about let's show the game and let's have the dev talk to us and kind of sell us on the game itself. It's more surface level than anything, but they're still there talking about some of the ins and outs of how the game functions. Now, I don't think you could have had that in this Inside Xbox, and they kind of tried to do that in some ways. They showed us the gameplay, this is what you want, and then the last 15-20 minutes I think were just here's the devs talking about this game, right? And I kind of feel like they tried to have their cake and eat it too type of thing. So for me, I would love to see that, and I think we're going to see something like that when we're talking about Halo, when we're talking about Fable, the games that are close to the chest from Microsoft, you're definitely going to get that. But I don't think that this show, and even when we're talking about the console itself come hopefully in June, I don't think this show could have been that because what I was talking about earlier, you had to be in lockstep with your partners, and clearly because of COVID, that's really
very challenging.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to get it here, but I do think you're going to get something like that because I think you could be a little get a bit in the weeds. Like we see Apple every year do that, right? Even like when they're selling you on the first iPhone, they kind of talk to you not just a little bit, like, you know, they talk to you mostly surface level, but they get in the weeds about what their selling points of each system in place is. So to me, yeah, like I thought the Inside Xbox was fine. It's absolutely fine, but I also don't like the criticism of like that some people gave. I'm not saying a lot. Some people gave it kind of sounded like, yeah, show me the games, but not those games, other games. and I don't think that's fair because yeah, like Microsoft answered the critique of, oh yeah, we don't have games. Well, here's a bunch of third-party partners that, let's be honest with each other, right? Most of them weren't Ubisoft, EA, Activision. These are smaller studios out there or smaller publishers that if they were to share the stage with at E3, they probably would have gotten a little outshined by the Ubisofts, the Activisions, the
Right.
EA. So,
yep. I mean, you also got to remember you had Sega in there with Yakuza, right? With that's a big one, and then of course Bandai Namco. Everyone's been calling for that. I mean, everyone has been calling. Well, how come we don't get the Japanese support? And they got two big ones in there, which showed off well, I think.
Yeah, and like Yakuza needs it. Like I think that they've even kind of talked about Yakuza fatigue in Japan, so trying to bring that over to more Western audiences. That's fantastic. The weird Bandai Namco game shows that Xbox is going to get weird, and that's awesome. It's great to see.
Well, listen, Brad, I know we only have it for a few more minutes. I kind of just want to throw a caveat to this first topic. One of the bigger criticisms that I've had for Microsoft, not in the last 2 years, but 2013 to 2017, was their lack of marketing prowess, if you will. And we talked about Jared West coming in December. And we know what Cindy Walker did. She was, she led the charge on showing the Series X and Hellblade at the Game Awards. It was her that stood up during a meeting and said, yeah, we should do something that we haven't done, that they're not expecting. We can't go down the same path. So hats off to both Cindy and of course Jared West's presence now. In your opinion, how do you rate how they've been handling marketing the brand, taking that vocal space or voice, if you will, within the public eye since December 12th? I mean, it seems like it's been all Microsoft all day.
So I think you just hit the point there, is that Microsoft has done a good job of controlling the narrative, right? Yes. Like whenever the Video Game Awards, when they announced that, nobody saw that coming. Nobody. I mean, Microsoft, Phil Spencer even said, hey, look, we had a complete fake script that we practiced on stage in front of these people. We had fake videos to show off. And then they come out and show their real deal and nobody saw it coming. That was a huge win. And Microsoft has done a good job, even the May event, they've done a good job of controlling the narrative of how things are progressing. Now, yes, May was a little bit of a hiccup, but again, Microsoft is once again controlling the narrative. Sony has their own agenda and their own path that they're going to take, but it feels like, and I may be wrong because of what's going on in the world right now, that they're going to go follow the same formula they did with their last couple PlayStations, which, let's be honest, isn't maybe a bad approach considering that they've sold 100 million of the current generation consoles. So maybe that's the approach they're going to take. And what Microsoft is doing is working backwards and saying, look, if Sony is going down that route, here's how we're going to build hype for our console as the underdog and how we hope to control everything leading up until the holiday sales. For Microsoft, it's extremely important to get that Xbox brand out there and let everybody know that a new console is coming. And that is harder to do for Microsoft because, let's be honest, Microsoft is a massive company. They have a lot of tentacles going on and a lot of noise, and people hear Microsoft and they might think Microsoft 365. Well, that's great, but Microsoft also has Xbox. So Xbox has to be really championing what they're doing. And I honestly think they're doing a really good job. It keeps me interested. It's like, oh gosh, look, we've only got to wait 3 more weeks for potentially really cool information. That's awesome. Like, we know that things are coming, and knowing that things are coming is almost as good as knowing what is coming. And so I personally think Microsoft is doing a good job on the marketing side this time around. And I'm curious to see how they're going to try to mix things up here going forward given the current environment. I know they had some bigger plans that have now obviously been shifted. And so the path ahead is very intriguing, I think, for what Microsoft is trying to do. The question is can they execute really, really effectively for the remaining steps that they have until roughly, a November holiday-ish launch?
That's a great point. Now, listen, one quick question before we get you out of here. The June event that we've heard was originally being, discussed as their E3 reveal event for their first party. That was shifted until July. Now, we don't know when in July. We don't know if it's early July. We may get it in mid. May be giving at the end. Right now, it seems that they're on a holding pattern. They're waiting for Sony. They are in a position where they can wait for Sony. But the June event, supposedly from different rumors and Reddit posts and things, is supposed to be the reveal of the Series S. Which is apparently, and thanks to Jez Corden of Windows Central, reported that right now it's currently in the take-home test phase for Microsoft employees, which is very interesting. And I still think they're going to do a 2 SKU approach. I think it's going to be one for people who want to spend, $500, and the people who want to get into the next generation, want to take advantage of Game Pass, but only can afford a $300 console. How likely do you think this June event is going to reveal the heavily rumored Series S?
Yeah, so it's I don't want to say $1 million question, but it is a big question. And so here's another interesting take on this. I know for a fact that they were not planning to launch the Xbox Series X and S at the same time. Now, we're not talking like years apart, but they were going to be, I believe it was like a 2-month difference. Actually, I have some really good information about when they were initially planning to launch this stuff that I'll cover someday. But the questions becomes, I know that the Series S exists. Like the Lockhart device is real. Developers have been targeting for it. I have absolutely no question that thing is a real physical thing that you can go grab somewhere. There's a lot. Could Microsoft not launch it? Absolutely. There was a device in Microsoft's history called the Surface Mini that was literally on trucks driving to retail stores, and they had them turn it around at the last second. So it is possible that they could can this thing. I don't think that's going to happen. Are they going to announce it in June? I don't officially know yet, but I do know for a fact that developers, first and third party, have been briefed on the technical limitations or effectively the SKU that we believe is to be the Lockhart or Series S. Are they going to announce that in June? I hope. What's been really interesting is to what you pointed out is that they announced this Xbox 2020 and they said things are coming every month. And then they just kind of glossed over June. So June appears to be the outlier of what is going on. And also keep in mind that Phil Spencer has already said that by the end of summer, you're going to be able to pre-order the Series X.
Yes, finally.
Right. So it would make sense that they would at some point, they're going to have to reveal that information. And June would be a really convenient time for people to kind of get things in line because Microsoft's they're not shy about this, right? A $499 console is not cheap. And a lot of people are going to have to put pennies in the bank. And the sooner they tell them what is coming on, the more likelihood that people can put more pennies into the bank before that event occurs and be able to afford this thing. So that is what I hope to see in June. We will see. But I think that the Lockhart is going to be a very interesting device, mostly because I think it's going to sell in a much higher volume than the Series X.
And that's my thing is this a kind of 2-part question. Is this the wild card? Like the Lockhart's price is going to probably predict or showcase what the X's price is going to be. And do you see this? Because my whole thing is like, how does production on these 2 consoles, which one do you produce more of? And if the demand shifts for either or, how do you pivot? Do you think that maybe the Series S is more like a February, March type of launch and have the Series X be that November, release and have that kind of be the thing that pushes you until the Series S?
I think it's a possibility, but there's also concern that you don't want to miss that holiday shopping season. That's a pretty critical time. And so for Microsoft, in my opinion, it would be a mistake to launch the Series X and say November and then the Series S and anything other than before December 25th. If you're into the next year, then you've missed that massive season. and especially without knowing the prices. Now, the pricing, there's been a lot of speculation out there too that, hey, Microsoft can just charge whatever they want for it because they want to win. That's an interesting take. Now, keep in mind, this is a business. It's in a business to make money. And they need, and Phil Spencer's head is on the line. Like, he can't just ship all this stuff and then Microsoft loses $2 billion. Like, they're going to be mad at him. So he's got to have a plan to pitch Amy Hood, their CFO, and be like, look, if we charge X for this is how we're going to make Y on the back end or after the console sells, to bring in the cash that's going to justify that price point. So I know that Microsoft has flexibility on pricing. They've not been shy about taking a loss on the initial console. The question is how big of a loss are they willing to take? And can they justify it through things like Game Pass and other subscription services to make Xbox a profitable business for the overall Microsoft org? So,
well, listen, Brad, I just want to say, first of all, as we get you out of here, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Hopefully, we won't have to wait till 40,000. Hopefully, we can get you back here during 30,000 the next time you hit. I would imagine it's going to be much sooner than later. We get you back maybe in 30,000 subs. So if you're new to the channel, you've never heard of Brad Sams, and you enjoyed what you heard today, you definitely got to get over there. So Brad, do me a favor, man. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's real easy. Just search BD Sams. That's the Twitter, that's the YouTube, that's everything. And so one little gamer tag to rule them all, I guess.
Well, listen, dude, it was really an absolute pleasure. You bring the knowledge and the professionalism as always, and it was really a big treat for the fans. I mean, we have over 300 people watching live, which is big, and my YouTube channel is small, so to have that many people here is a big deal. So, Brad, listen, enjoy the rest of the day, my friend. Thank you again, and we'll be talking very soon.
For sure. Thanks for the invite. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you, Brad. All right. So, Mr. Badbit, let's bring you back into the conversation, and I want you to keep that marketing hat on, because you have an amazing hat. Only I see it, but it's okay. It's fine. So let's talk Jared West for a second. This is the unsung hero who left the Xbox platform to work with, I believe it was American Express. And from there, he had a very short stint there. And then he went over and he made his mark with Netflix. And he took Netflix to new heights, never seen before. And of course, like I said in the opening, he was once again rehired to lead the charge for the next generation of Xbox, meaning the Xbox Series X and potentially S. For you, as someone that is in the business, who has seen from first to worst and from hero to GOAT, how have you seen his I guess reach help along a struggling Microsoft? Because listen, I say this all the time, I think there was a change in brand ideology post E3 2018 after the announcement of all these studios and the creation of course the initiative, and it's been really it's been a real nice treat to see Microsoft, who was at one point in really, really bad shape, make these strives and not have the first party quote unquote bangers that people are asking for. Now they're coming. Have you seen Jared West's influence in the last 6 months post December 12th, 2019?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He gets it. See, it's kind of like a David versus Goliath when it comes to the marketing teams. Like, I'm just trying to look up the PlayStation could do. It's crazy where the market share is, because PlayStation could drop a logo. It's going to be like the most liked thing on Instagram, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you take a look at the PlayStation 18-second, like, this is what the intros are going to look like. The thing that you're going to, while you're pressing X to skip, this is what it's going to show. It's already about, I think, at around like 200,000 views. And like, you take a look at the Xbox event, it's 5 days, 500,000. Like, PlayStation, all it needs to do is drop something and people kind of look at it at this point. So Xbox has to think outside the box of how they promote themselves and make themselves more personable as a company. And that's always a company's hardest thing, is like, how do we get a personality behind this logo and for you to kind of picture it in your head? And I think Microsoft, you know, and people in the chat who are like outraged, I'm not even looking at it, I'm just assuming, they have been utterly killing it of trying to get ahead of Sony wherever they can, because they understand they need to. Right?
Yes.
Like, they need to do wacky and crazy things. They need to go out there and showcase a console in the middle of a Game Awards, right? Because if they were just lockstep what PlayStation's doing, PlayStation would probably just win again.
Yeah.
And so and again, win is a dumb term. So like, would probably outsell them just on the case of what we've seen this generation. So Microsoft has to be out there doing different things and doing them in ways that get people to look at you differently. And I think they've done that really well. Like, it's almost, if not every month, we see something totally new from Xbox. Again, we go back to December, Xbox Series X reveal. Nobody saw that coming. And then they're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to also drop Hellblade 2. I wouldn't tell you that they're going to show two things at the Game Awards, right? Next month, you got Project Mara. And then you got all the Game Pass stuff, where Game Pass, their marketing, whoever's leading their social media, just promote them. I don't know what you need to do. They're doing a fantastic job at promoting Game Pass.
Hold on just a second. So how someone is ringing the bell. Stand by just a second.
Yeah, you know what? I'll fill the void. Don't even worry about it. Okay, guys. Hey, it's just me. So we're gonna guess who's ringing the doorbell. UPS. What if it's Shuhei Yoshida and he's just trying to stop this show because he doesn't want the Xbox to get any type of good praise? He needs to stop Xbox wherever podcast there is, because Shuhei Yoshida he's that petty at this point in time. Right? He's really jealous that we've got an inside Xbox. Everybody's talking about a Series X. He didn't know about that. Now he's a little jealous. That's fine. That's fair. You know, he's Shuhei Yoshida. You know, secretly he runs the whole show at Sony, like, at large. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, maybe it's Shuhei. Maybe it's Kevin Butler. Maybe he's looking for a job. Things go so well for Kevin Butler this generation. He's just like, hey, can I be on the show? Like, can I just stop in? Can I be live? You know, I need a job, please. You know, maybe it's Sean Layden. Maybe Sean Layden's there. He's like, listen, I got some dirt to tell. All right, I'm here to tell you my side of the story. Oh, hey, what's going on, Boom?
I'm back. Yes, yeah. You know what? Obviously, in real life, you know, because I'm not in a studio, you know, these things happened. I kind of feel like Greg Miller. You know, obviously, if you watched, I love Greg. I mean, yeah. I haven't watched the show in a while, but when they first started out, when he was with Colin, the UPS guy would always ring at the most inopportune times, and he would have to step away. It was hilarious. So, you know what? Real life, folks. Real talk. Yeah. Hey, like them apples. I'm using one of your things. Real talk. Hey, like that. I like that. You know, real quick. I just want to say a big thank you to two people. First of all, Master Jazz 09. I want to thank you so much for being here. He shows his unbelievable generosity and drops in very, very generous $10 super chat and says this: people are giving Microsoft so much for trying to provide games and entertainment in uncertain times. What the hell has Sony done? Maybe Microsoft should just pull a Sony and cancel the next event. Well, hopefully that's not in fact the case. And I understand the frustration. You can tell, and I agree. And of course, Gamer by Choice. Thank you so much for being here, dude. I really appreciate it. He drops a $10 super chat. That's very generous. I really appreciate it. He says, "Great segment, Boom. Keep up the great work with these awesome guests. People like, share, subscribe. Boom is a good dude and awesome content creator." Well, dude, that's awesome. Let me tell you something. First of all, the generosity is not to be denied, but the more so than the $10 super chat is the compliment. You don't understand that when a content creator hears that, him or her, really, it brings a smile to our faces, because we know that we're doing something that people care about and that appreciate, and that is awesome. So thank you so much for that. So Joe, let me we'll close out this particular topic, and obviously it was great to have Brad come in for the 30 or 40 minutes he was here. Is there anything that you would like to see Microsoft do to kind of get back in cadence, as you put it, to what they've been doing up until the May 7th event?
Not really. Like they again, like just to get off my tangent for just a second, or hop back off it on it just to get back off it. They have to do creative things, and that's what we're seeing out of I was gonna say GameSpot. That's what we've seen out of Xbox this past few months. Is like you're seeing them like people will poke fun at like it looks like a refrigerator, so then they'll literally put
A refrigerator.
consoles like that's awesome. Being self-aware is fun, and they're being really fun, and they're doing unique things. And I want to step away from the fact that, like, regarding that one super chat, you see my Twitter. Most of the times, I'm trying to think over this whole like, well, Xbox does something. Ergo, like Sony fanboys will do X, or Xbox, or Sony will do something. Xbox fans will say X. The fanboy stuff. I don't like. I just kind of try to look at it as in like.
I just scroll past it, dude. To be honest with you, I very rarely respond unless they wrote me in and I have to defend myself. But for the most part, I don't.
Even then, I just mute. It's just like. It is at the end of the day, it's a stupid argument because like they're both gonna sell really well. So like if you see someone like if you dug real talk in the fire truck outside of Greece, if you dug
that's because this show is on fire, my friend.
Oh, it is. If you dug that inside Xbox, don't let whatever. If you think it's like an A+, go for it. Enjoy it. Have fun with those games. If you didn't like it, that's fair. But kind of Twitter's like the Karen of the internet. Everybody has a problem that everybody wants to speak to your manager. So like best to ignore Karen.
I like that. I want to speak to your manager. 2 stars.
Exactly. My dinner was lukewarm. I was promised that this would be hot. Yeah. It's like, it is what it is. I think I'm as a Sony player this generation, I'm really excited to see what Microsoft has up their sleeves this generation.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great for everyone, man. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Well, listen again. Great way to open the show. We're 46 minutes in, and let me just make sure that I'm correctly putting my stuff because I get yelled at in the messages in the chat. People not in this chat, but when they leave messages, your timestamps are off. Boom, you suck. Okay, sorry about that.
That's why I like when I do timestamps to break the fourth wall here. If I do them, I was like, it's around this mark. I
have a decent memory for the most part. I remember, but sometimes you're trying to do the show, you're trying to add production values. We're on camera today. I want to drink my water and not look unprofessional. So you know what? Let's move on to this is going to be a fun topic. I was hoping to get Brad in on this particular one, but I got to be honest with you. He's obviously very busy. He has he's stuck at home with the kids and his wife, and obviously there's homeschooling, and for him to take the time and be and to give us the 30 or 40 minutes was tremendous, and it's truly appreciated because he's someone that I really enjoy watching his stuff, and getting a chance to work with him today was a real treat, or at least for me personally. And folks, I just want to give it a heads up. We have some. I can't make announcements yet. I'm in a position where I have a few things kind of percolating in the rear, and 2 particular interviews that I'm lining up are going to be, and I want to say this with the most tact possible, and not smiling like a fanboy. They are going to define my career in podcasting. I will let you know right now. They are the biggest guests I've ever had. They may be the biggest guests I ever get. Mike Ybarra is not one of those 2, but Mike is going to be coming back on the program soon. He obviously was on a couple of months ago when we had the charity event for iDizzy, which, by the way, is going to be making his debut on Breakfast with Boom. So iDizzy is going to be on Breakfast with Boom with us. So I'm very excited about that. And a lot of big things happening for the channel. So I just keep your eyes and ears open. If you're new, I want to say welcome. Every flag is welcome here. And we love everyone. This is a very friendly chat. We have almost 350 people here in the middle of the day, which is absolutely fantastic. But I want to move on to the next topic, and let me just make sure this is correct. I'm changing the number right live on the air because I want to make sure I get this right. 49 minutes in, we're going to topic number 2.
You want to, Jason, have to say it. You said percolating in the rear.
You know what? I didn't even realize I said that, but when you say it out loud and I think about it, that was probably not the best choice of words.
Chuckle. Only this podcast. I love it.
Listen, this is all fun and games. You know, that's what we're doing. In the times we're living in, a good chuckle is certainly something that we all deserve and need in our lives. And I hopefully have brought that to the table. But you know what? This one is a fun one. You know, with Microsoft having 15 first-party studios under the Xbox Game Studios banner, I wanted to get to the opinions of both myself and, of course, Mr. Bebbit. I have panel written down because I thought I was going to have a bigger panel, but we'll give our opinions. You know, there again regarding which of the very talented developers are you most personally excited about. Now, here's a list of the first-party studios. If you don't know, you have 343 Industries, you have World's Edge, the Coalition, Compulsion Games, Double Fine, The Initiative, In Exile, Mojang, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, Playground Games, Rare, Turn 10 Studios, Undead Labs, and Xbox Game Studios Publishing. And you know, for me, and you know, I'll go first, Mr. Bed. I won't be as elaborate, but I have 2 out of the 15 that have me ridiculously excited. And the first one is Obsidian. For a lot of reasons. One because their RPGs are nothing short of amazing, and The Outer Worlds is a perfect example of the talent that studio still retains. And the second one, and anyway, kind of just to reiterate why it's Obsidian. You know, right now, rumors that they're working on a Skyrim-esque RPG, which is going to be a brand new AAA IP for the Xbox platform. And when you can take the world, or I guess lore, or ideology of a Skyrim, and take that Dungeons and Dragons-esque kind of way of life in that game and give it to Obsidian and let them go crazy with an unlimited budget, you could potentially have something that's going to give the Elder Scrolls a run for its money. And I think that is something that Microsoft needs. It's something that will be in Game Pass day and date, and it's something that will bring people over to the platform, because that era of gaming, that ideology of gaming, that Dungeons and Dragons role playing, 20-side dice kind of a realm, people really like, and we haven't had a good one. The last one we had was Dragon Age Inquisition by BioWare, which was amazing, absolutely amazing. But I would love to see Obsidian take that lore and go crazy with it. Now, the second one is a bit of a wild card, and a lot of people are not talking about this company, and that's Compulsion Games, folks. Now, I understand We Happy Few may not have been your bag, and I'm going to be honest with you. I bought the game before even playing it. I jumped on early. I thought, when it was in preview, I thought that the game was going to be more like BioShock. Right, like that's kind of the vibe that I got from the cops and with the white painted faces, and it seemed very BioShocky, if you will, and it didn't. I played it. I put a couple hours into it, locked a couple of achievements. It just didn't hit on all the cylinders for me, so I put it back down. Okay. But right now, they are currently working on a AAA game. It's third-person action-adventure / horror that's being called a cross between BioShock, one of my favorite titles, and Uncharted. So I say sign me up, because, again, it's a new IP. It's from a company that no one is talking about. When you mix the potential horror elements of BioShock and the adventuring in BioShock, and then you can turn around and somehow bring in a third-person perspective action adventure, and you just use the words Uncharted. Well, my God, I mean, I'll take 2. So I'm looking forward. Those are the two. I mean, listen, I could pick one for each, but we'd be here all day. So, Mr. Babbitt, let me turn this over to you. For you, it could be one, it could be two, it could be five. What of the 15 first party studios have you excited?
I think for me, the obvious one is Obsidian. Obsidian, for like as a not like again, like I love Skyrim, but I wouldn't call myself the biggest Elder Scrolls fan. Played Oblivion as a kid. I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I would just like go out and try to kill guards to take their armor. But with that said, understanding how big like Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim were to the Xbox brand at the time, seeing Obsidian there, seeing the success of Outer Wilds really gives me hope that Xbox understands that those games, those type of games, mean a lot to Xbox players.
Yeah,
and I think that's what I mean, I think we're assured to get like an Outer Worlds too, but that's what we're going to be getting from Obsidian. That's why I'm so in on this, as we've seen kind of Bethesda, not to say like completely flounder and they're the worst because of 76, but they're not their same. You know, they're not.
They're not the same company, dude. Something changed from Fallout 4, and even Fallout 4, depending on who you ask, wasn't like, for me, my favorite besides New Vegas. But I really enjoyed 3. I put about 300 hours into Fallout 3, and even though 4 was comparable, something felt different, right?
And in a world, and I think like that's where like CD Projekt Red has changed the game, because I think like Witcher 3, though wasn't my game of the year that year, because I don't know if you ever heard of a little game called Bloodborne, because that was, but like Witcher 3 changed how we look at Western RPGs, and Fallout 4 was like, this is the RPG that takes from other Western RPGs and kind of builds on the universe. So like to see Obsidian, who are great storytellers, great universe builders with games like Knights of the Old Republic. Like let's not downplay how awesome Knights of the Old Republic is.
Still is, believe it or not.
It has totally it's a cornerstone of Star Wars lore in general. Like,
yes.
Me being a Star Wars fan, Knights of the Old Republic is huge. It even talks of like building their own trilogy and Keanu possibly being Revan. Awesome. Like all that stuff is from this game. That's amazing. Like seeing Outer Worlds, amazing. But then like Fallout New Vegas. So they have love and care for everything that they touch. And yes, sometimes you get a bleeding edge, but most of the time you get something like Outer Worlds. So I'm really excited for them and seeing what they do. I'm also interested to see when Outer Worlds 2 comes out, and it being an Xbox exclusive, how Microsoft will manage that, because they didn't manage it well with Tomb Raider. I want to see what things they learned there in terms of messaging, or just like people like me. I'm like, yeah, it's an Xbox exclusive now. They bought them, it's theirs. So Compulsion's a really good one, because like Compulsion to me, I didn't like We Happy Few. I liked the premise, and I think like I was expecting a BioShock, and we got something very not. So I kind of viewed them when they purchased them. Compulsion still has a lot of proving to do, because I think like if any developers are there, I'm sorry if this sounds insulting. Don't worry, I'm just an idiot in a chair. I kind of think like Microsoft looked at Compulsion going, okay, that's a studio. It has a head. It's working right now. We could buy them for cheap. And like that's kind of like, and we could turn them into something. Let's do it. Like that's kind of what I view Compulsion. And to hear what like horror meets Uncharted, like dope. I'm in. Let's do it. I'm interested because they have a lot to prove. And that's one thing, is a studio that has something to prove interests me a lot. But at the end of the day, it isn't Playground, because I honestly think the three or four big ones that Microsoft truly has, the studios that are going to go out there and build these AAA bangers, are your Ninja Theories. They are your Playground. They are your 343, your Coalition, and Obsidian, right?
Yeah, initiative too. I mean, obviously we can't forget.
Fucking what is it? Sorry, Chris. But like,
That's
what is again, man, Perfect Dark. And that's the thing, like, I want them to reuse IP. Let's revisit Perfect Dark. Like, how awesome would that be? You know, like let's see Banjo. Like,
well, you know what? I agree with you. And again, again, this is a rumor, folks. I want you to understand something. We're hearing that one of the games that are going to be shown off are going. Well, the three companies that I believe that either was Phil Spencer or Aaron Greenberg said that they were going to be at this July event was, I believe, Obsidian was one of them. So we may get, a crack at what they're working on with their, Skyrim / RPG. And one of my favorite studios, again, an underdog right now, is Double Fine. Double Fine is they're rumored to potentially, again, this folks is a massive rumor, so don't take it to heart. And I'm dying if this is true. They're gonna bring back Banjo-Kazooie and do it their way, and I think that is tremendous.
Awesome. Because like as much as I love Rare, they're a different company now.
They
and
are.
To see Tim Schafer, like first off,
Tim is a great dude. He is just a great person, man.
You're a great human being who he is the only suit can't even call him a suit that truly when he loves what he does. He cares for his developers, and that is I think a big one, because when I think of Double Fine, I'm thinking PC and I'm thinking PS4 because of all the not exclusives, but like things like the PSVR game they did, and actually like some of their exclusives that they done, like Day of the Tentacle and Grim Fandango remaster. So like that was a huge get for them. That was like just such a wild card, and to see how they would do the comedy of
so
Banjo,
good, man.
Yeah, man, like that excites me. Again, like I cannot for the life of me sit back and not be excited for what either company is doing, because for a fact Sony has gone out and bought in some studios big and small to build up their repertoire. We've seen Microsoft.
Well, they have 15 studios, I believe, Sony, right?
They have a lot. Like a lot of people think about the closures that happen in UK, but then they fail to mention like Insomniac is a 5-studio operation, 3 of which are PSVR. So like, or VR now. So like, all these 2 major companies are making such awesome stuff. It's like how I cannot be excited for both of these. Like, I think it's really hard to go out there and like be a fanboy, because it's not just like stupid, but like everybody's creating really awesome things, and it's being driven by like these 2 juggernauts of a ton of money that just want to make more of it, and they're just giving it to these creators to make really weird and wacky stuff. Like, to me, seeing what Game Pass is and seeing what Matt Booty said, laugh at the name, it's funny. Seeing what he said is just like, yeah, we're out here building like smaller experiences. You'll still have your Gears and Halo. I believe that. Like, I think I
think that's good for the community, because just because one game is a single A and not for you doesn't mean it's not for a million other people.
But like, think of it business wise or marketing. Yeah, you're gonna have a Microsoft exclusive game almost every quarter, or
that's what they said. They want something every quarter. Yeah, that's big.
Builds on that inherent value of Game Pass already. Like, that's awesome. Who cares if it's a smaller experience? If the smaller experience is great, it doesn't matter. Hellblade shows you that. So like,
it's a great point to your a great addition to your point is, and I keep bringing this game up, Deliver Us the Moon, right? Yes. And this experience, folks, it is a little bit more than a walking simulator. But you are getting from one point to another. There is some light shooting, with cutting open locks and stuff. Your air, you have to save your air. You have to find new air. It is an adventure. It is an adventure that I played through twice. I am close to unlocking every achievement. I'm probably going to play through it again to try and get those last. I think I'm missing 4 achievements. I think that's what it is, and I loved every single minute of it. And it was in Game Pass the day it launched. Now, yes, it was on PC prior. I didn't play because I don't play games on PC. But with that said, this was an experience that a good portion of the community might have passed on because they didn't, there's when you go to the store, it's pages and pages and pages of games. And when they're in Game Pass, they're right up in your face. There's a whole place on the dashboard that says new to Game Pass. And you're like, oh, what's that? And you click it and you're like, oh my God, that looks amazing. So to your point, Mr. Badbit, this should be great for A's, double A's, and triple A's alike because they're all going to get played by somebody in Game Pass.
Not every game needs to be a Halo $500 million.
That is correct. Yes.
Like some of them could be smaller experience, less expensive experiences, but like doesn't change the fact that these games could be something crazy different, crazy new, and really kind of
fun.
Hashtag fun. But like I'm thinking of games like that have changed the way we're thinking about how like we make, like, for example, like Celeste, indie game, beautiful piece of art. That is
game of the year for some people, dude.
For some people, that is a very small game, but it means so much to so many people to see Microsoft kind of go like, all these studios are going to do their own things. We're going to let them create or flex their creative muscles. That gives me hope for the Xbox brand, because from what I'm aware of, that was never really an option for so many Xbox studios. And it's the reason why we saw Microsoft be the Halo, Gears, Forza company, right? And to see them just in the span of a few years go, okay, we got a big wallet. Satya Nadella, he just gave us a big allowance. Let's go spend it. Like, that's awesome. Like, let's to see Microsoft go, okay, we're about the gamers. Let's go take Sony to the mattresses. That's awesome. Like, that's what I want, and I think
when both companies fight, we win.
So like that's why I'm like, when I see Microsoft make these moves, it's not like Sony's out there blinders on like a racehorse, right? They're looking around, they're reading the room, and they're like, okay, well, how much is Kojima Productions? I know he's just a CG movie, but people like him. It's like what moves are they making behind the scenes in reaction to that, and how is Microsoft going to react to that? Like, those are the things that like excite me. And again, like to see a company like Double Fine, that is, I've known them as a Sony person, like.
Well, because they released all of their the remasters exclusive for PlayStation. That was something else.
See them on the Xbox stage and to see how I know how weird Tim Schafer can be.
Yes.
It's just like, okay, this is a guy that worked at ILM. Like, this guy is he's gonna make something weird. He's gonna make something.
It's funny. He talk about weird. During the Connect days, which a lot of people like. Oh, boo! Listen, I loved my Connect, and my nephew and I used to play the game that they made. Where you're jumping into lava and you're and my God, I can't think of the name of it. It was an amazing Connect game. They never made a sequel. I actually wrote to Tim, and he actually wrote to me privately, said, yeah, listen, I'm glad your nephew liked the game, but we don't have any plans to make a second one. What a shame. You know what, real quick, Mr. Bevitt, let me just catch up on some of the super chats. First of all, Warborn, thanks so much for being here, dude. I really appreciate that. He drops an outstanding $10 super chat. That's very generous, dude. It really is. He said Obsidian's Skyrim-like RPG is supposed to be, and I did not know this, based on their Pillars of Eternity setting, which is dope. I've never played it. And he says this, the setting stands up well to Elder Scrolls. Play Pillars if you haven't. I'm going to take you up that. Oh, man, a very good friend of the channel, and I like to consider him a brother. We talk privately all the time, like real talk, like, on the phone. Wilmy Hood drops an outstanding and very generous $25 super chat and says, hit that like button. Thank you so much, Wilmy. Really appreciate it, my brother. And okay, we have Sulphonics X Initiative drops an outstanding $5 super chat. How killer would Crimson Skies be done by Asobo? Oh my God, that is. First of all, I don't know if you ever played Crimson Skies.
I have not, but I only hear great things. Also,
it is a fantastic game, dude.
I don't want to be rude, but I do have to tweet something out here. Ghost of Tsushima State of Play, broadcasting this Thursday, May 14th, 1 p.m. PT time. So that's 4 o'clock on my time, right? Is that 4 o'clock Jersey time?
Well, you said 4 o'clock Pacific. It would be for me. It would be 7
No,
p.m.
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Oh, 1 o'clock. So yeah, it'd be 4 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, Eastern 4 for me, and that's big. That's big. For finally get this, I think that game is going to be amazing. That's going to be a fantastic. One bad mother.
Like
What's
Last of Us Part 2, like I didn't really need a Part 2. Like don't get me wrong, super excited for it, but like first one's a masterpiece to me, so like I don't need a second one. It's kind of I'm more scared because like I know the spoilers, I know everything people are.
I know. I feel bad for you, dude. That sucks.
Yeah, I really like. Again, that person made 4 accounts. They
What a
wasted their
bastard.
time. They're gonna whatever. We knew the Avengers were gonna win in Endgame. It's about the journey. So like, even knowing the spoilers, even I was like shaking because like I know what happens. I'm like, this is gonna be intense. But like, I don't need that. Like, this is what I like. Seeing something new I've never seen before, or seeing an idea reimagined. Like, I'm all in for these experiences.
Yeah. Well, also real quick, tomorrow Jeff Keighley is having some sort of an event. It's going to be I would imagine 30-minute type of video going up. He didn't say who it was, who it's from. It's going to be interesting, and that's what I like, that we're going to be getting these little nugget events that happen throughout the week that we can, have something to talk about all the way to the end of the year. Real quick, one bad mother. First of all, dude, thank you so much for your generosity. He drops a $5 super chat and says this. Missing story from last week's IX was the rising middle class of gaming. Subscription money plus better tools is increasing indie production values. Now, I agree with that for sure. And JD Gamer, hey JD, thank you so much for being here. I super appreciate it. He drops a very outstanding and very generous super chat for $10 and says, hey Boom, I'm late. Did I miss Brad Sams? Here's some support for the great work. Yeah, dude, he was in the opening part of the show, and unfortunately, he could not be here. He gave us, I think it was almost 40 minutes. He was able to give us, before he had to leave to go handle some family business. So it was great, a great interview with Brad. So definitely check that out on the replay. And of course, thank you for your generosity. But you know what, Mr. Badbit, if there's nothing else you'd like to add, I'd like to kind of move on to the next topic. Okay, so the next topic is this, and I think this is not going to come off as a surprise to anybody. The price will be a contributing factor in how most gamers, especially in the current times that we're in, are going to approach the next generation. And obviously the world's current situation with so many people losing their jobs and not having insurance, and it's a tough go around, folks. And it's in a year where potentially two $500 consoles are going to be dropping, and that is, a lot of people are going to have to figure it out to do it the right way. Whether that's sell your old stuff, start saving, the pennies, collecting cans, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That whatever gets you that console that you want, legally, you're going to have to do. Again, don't do anything illegal, please. That's the police officer in me coming out. Please do not do anything illegal. But I want to kind of just bring this back to gaming. And in an article that's making the rounds on social media, as well as the gaming community, Forbes recently, and I believe this was yesterday, published a conversation between the Game Awards creator, which we just talked about him, and executive producer Jeff Keighley, and Wedbush Securities analyst Michael Pachter. And of course, brought into the mix for a little bit of that conversation was former Microsoft executive Peter Moore, which was a very, very interesting show. I'm going to actually add that to the show notes. Aaron Greenberg also stopped by for a little bit during that conversation. And in this particular, snippet interview, Michael Pachter goes against the conventional wisdom of what the next generation consoles are going to cost, and he said something that was pretty epic in my opinion. He called the Xbox Series X, not the S, to release at $400. And here is what Pachter had to say on the matter. He said Microsoft currently is being pretty smart about waiting Sony out here. From what I've seen, Sony is going to have no choice but to charge $500 for their PlayStation 5. And Microsoft has a big balance sheet in front of them. If they want to cut the price by 100, just price below and subsidize the first 10 million, they will do that. And he continues, Joe, by saying, so I think that they're waiting to have Sony blink first, and then they'll reveal the price and the launch date. It's going to be holiday, so very likely sometime in November, very likely a $400 price point, and fans are going to get a lot for their $400. Now, obviously, listen, depending on where you stack Michael Pachter in your I guess Rolodex of people you trust for information, he has gotten it wrong more times than he's gotten it right. We all know that. But at the same time, which wasn't in this particular article, and I watched the video, he said numerous occasions that Microsoft is in a position financially to be in position better, in his opinion, than Sony, and can financially afford to, lose up front to win in the back end. Now, Mr. Bedbit, I think we both are in agreement here that we both expect the consoles to launch at $499.99. And I've said that publicly, and I still believe that. But wow, talk about an aggressive move. What if? And again, we're gonna go into the Marvel comics and bring up the what if issues. What if Wolverine killed the Hulk? Right, one of my favorite ones. Well, what if Microsoft goes balls to the wall, releases a $399 Xbox Series X, a $199 Xbox Series X, and Sony is sitting there with their D in their hand at $499? What does that do for this for the next generation?
Changes the game. So let me just read this. Before I react, I got to read this out loud. This is how things work for me. Wake up, Samurai. We got a state of play to cover. This Thursday, May 16th, go through Tsushima Deep Dive. We'll be doing a recording of a special reaction show, regular show on Thursday / reactions on Friday. Okay, that makes sense. How do I feel about a $400 console? Simply put, it puts Sony in a body bag. First off, I don't think Michael Pachter's right.
Me either. But it's interesting because something. It wasn't just Michael Pachter's opinion. Who backed him up on it was Peter Moore. And Peter Moore, he's a very no nonsense kind of a speaker. And he came pretty much said, if you wanted to, he didn't say this. I'm figuratively, saying, patronizing what he said. Is basically, if you want to cut Sony's throat, this is what you do.
But also, like, to talk about what Brad was talking about earlier, they're also a company, right? Like, they also gotta think about their bottom line more than anything. More about winning. It's more about, like, how do we gain profit share more than, like, how do we win and beat PlayStation and win this theoretical race? Because, like, if the Series X is, and let's hypothesize here, $400, Xbox is taking a $200+ hit on this console, then we're also having to assume that the Series S is sold at a loss, because if you're selling a console for $300 and that's what the number's been for a really long time, then it kind of makes one of the two consoles redundant, and that's the Series S. So that also then means you have to sell the Series S at a serious loss as well. So, like, is Xbox willing to take massive, possibly billion-dollar losses on these consoles to hopefully get people to jump on Game Pass?
I don't know, man. I see $499, $299. That makes more sense to me.
Makes more sense, because then, you're going to see people go, I'm good. I think I'm gonna buy the S, because it's like, sure, it's probably not as powerful, but it's cheaper and digital, whatever. I think that is a way more realistic outlook than $400. I still hold on to the fact of, like, people hope for the best, prepare for $500. That's what I think both these consoles are going to be. I think the last console that took a $200+ loss was the PlayStation 3, and even that loss did not sell that console because it was garbage. So to me, I Microsoft has deep pockets, but the way I see it, I don't know.
It's still a business there. It's still, at the end of the day, it's still a business. They have stock. They have shareholders that want to make money.
Gotta appease shareholders. I don't know how much it costs him. Oh shit, maybe Brad, come back. You know, how much does this console cost to make? Like people say things. I say things all the time. It could be a $480 console just to produce, no packaging, no bells and whistles. Or it could be like a $20, console to make, and that's not including
I think the Xbox Series X, if I recall correctly, was being priced between 487 and 509, I think it was. Somewhere around there.
So to me, I know Sony with the PS4, and this is just fact, so people can stop yelling at me, sold the PS4 at a $70 loss. And the reason that they were able to turn a profit so fast on it was because so many people adopted
Quickly, yes.
PlayStation Plus and Andrew House's idea of like people are going to buy PlayStation Plus and they're going to buy 2 games. That was the average, and they were able to net out a profit. That's why the PlayStation 4 at launch was profitable, is because the attach rate was insane. So right off the get-go, I think if then cool, like PlayStation, they don't have to launch it at $500. Then they're forced to sell it at 400. Like Michael Pachter, I love you, but you also ran Atari into the ground. So like for me, I'm like, one company has to answer. PlayStation, there is no way, shape, or form that PlayStation, the weaker console, everybody look at me, PlayStation guy admitting things, the weaker console is going to sell at $500. If that's the case, I will rename the trophy room to the Achievement Hall. I have backup ideas. So, like, there's no way that's going to be a possibility. Sony in their right mind thinks that that's going to net them out a win. To me, I mean, listen, it is Sony. Sky's the limit here. So they could be. It could be. But, like, I don't see a company knowing that they're weaker, knowing how awesome the Xbox marketing has been, could try to even skate with being the more expensive console. That's something that's just going to kill you, because even the casual audience you lose, because they'd be like, dude, I can buy the cheaper option, literally $200 less than you, or I could buy the more powerful option for $100 less than you. Like, I'm going to choose the Xbox. I would choose the Xbox. So like to me, Sony knows that. So they would probably answer. They would probably, as a kid, say, clap back. And that's why, like, they're both playing the waiting game. That's why I'm like, theoretically,
this is the most extreme game of chicken I've ever seen. Right?
It's exactly why we're not seeing Microsoft talk about a June event, because they are waiting until literally July 1st to then launch what price this console is. Because Michael Pachter also said, like, sorry, Michael Pachter, I bet you're really nice, but I'm never going to talk to you ever, so I get to be rude here. I don't think he knows what he's talking about, because he said that you can launch a console and
didn't he say $800, something like that?
Microsoft can launch the console and a day before announce the price. And I'm like,
nah, that wouldn't.
What are you smoking? I want that. So, like, again, he says a lot of crazy stuff, but I'm sorry, wait, you're a police officer. I wouldn't, because that's illegal. But like, I would not. No, it doesn't make none of the things that Michael Pachter has said recently makes a lot of sense. So I don't think it's gonna be 400. Expect 500.
Yes, I'm again, like I said in the opening, I'm personally expecting 5 for the X, 3 for the S, and the PlayStation 5 to come in at the same $500 price point. Again, this is, just look at the balance sheet. So let's pretend, for instance, that I'm doing the books. Let's just say, for instance, I put on my, my book hat. Right now, this is a business. Right now, both companies are probably in the red in many areas because of the current world crisis.
Yeah.
They're not going to put themselves further in the red. Now, granted, Microsoft wants to win for sure. There's no doubt about it. But they will do that by giving the consumers 2 SKUs for people that wanted for the diehards, for the 15% of 100, which is your diehard gamers, your hardcore, if you like to call them. You'll sell a ton of Series X. For the casual market, which Sony did very well this particular generation, and Microsoft could see this almost the identical success, is they could logistically have 85% of next generation consoles in the Series S, buying that console for $300 and having 3 months of Xbox Game Pass packaged in there, which we've heard rumors of, and then of course be regular members, because people are going to say, wow, I spent $300 on the console. It's better than the Xbox One X that's currently out. And it's an all digital system, because most of the kids, most of the younger generation, are playing on their tablets. They're playing on their phones. They don't do physical media. They just don't.
Right. To me, like, let's take plastic boxes out of here. The strategy's Game Pass.
Yes, it is.
Xbox's future is Game Pass. It's not. I'm sorry, Xbox's future is Game Pass. It's not with the Series brand. That's just for people that don't have PCs or don't want to play on mobile or tablet. Like, that's what we're getting to. So, like, to me, is Microsoft's biggest focus to win on a market that hasn't seen significant growth in the grand scheme of things. It only grew, like, I think it was like 3.6%. Like, nah, not really. I think that's why they have this blue ocean strategy of, like, let's go after mobile, let's go after computers, let's go after tablets. That's what people are playing on. Let's go after those markets and see where we can penetrate and make the most profit out of. And I think that's we get into the too much of the verses where it's just like bigger picture. Microsoft wants to make the most money. How are they going to do that? It's not by price matching PlayStation more so than how do we get Game Pass into more homes.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why they've teamed up with Samsung. There's a reason why Project X Cloud has been added to Game Pass Ultimate. There's a reason why that Xbox app is going to be on every Samsung TV. There is a much bigger, broader picture than my console is better than yours. The console wars per se are going to exist solely on social media. The actual real wars are going to be subscriptions. They're going to be behind the scenes. How many? Because even you even heard Yoshida of Sony say, well, for next generation, it's not going to be how many consoles we sell. It's going to be how many people have our services.
And then, and like to turn that fanboy argument off, it's not to pivot the conversation because they think they're going to sell less units. It's just a fact.
It is a fact. Yes, absolutely.
We are going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see your Google Fire Sticks. What is that? No, it's Amazon Fire Stick. Whatever. You're going to see Xbox on Sony TVs, Samsung TVs. You're going to see PlayStation apps on Sony TVs. You're going to see Apple TVs.
Yep.
That's where the fight is, because they want that subscription money, because it's way more attractive than having to sell a hardware. Way more attractive to say, hey, it's on your Apple TV or whatever have you, and just Bluetooth controller support. Like, that is way better.
Dude, that'd be amazing. I think about that for a second. You'll be able to play the latest Xbox game in your Xbox Game Pass subscription without even buying a freaking console.
It's awesome, and that's
tremendous. That's tremendous.
Glimpse into the future, and that's way cooler. So, like, when Pateron's like, they can announce the price on November 11th, and the console will come out on the 12th.
It's not happening.
Michael, put away whatever you're doing, dude. That's not like whatever. They're $2 billion. Like, what is it? Is Microsoft $1 trillion company?
Yes, yeah. They had surpassed Apple as the richest company.
Suck it, Tim Cook. Suck it. But like, they're $1 trillion company. Sony's $1 billion company. They could take a loss. Both companies are in really interesting positions, because one has the money to make up the ground, and that's Microsoft, and the other company is Sony. And Sony is in this very strange position because, yes, they have won this generation, right? But when you go looking to the future of PlayStation, it does get murky and it does get a little scary, because they don't have the infrastructure like an Apple, Microsoft, or even a Samsung
They
has.
also people, and I just to add to your point, people have to understand the change in management could potentially affect a lot of decision making because you're, like I said, and I say this all the time, and I think
Mhm.
you've agreed with me, all of their rah community guys are gone.
Well,
And
not just
we missed them all.
the change in management shows the direction of where the company is headed. They've understood that yes, the structure that Microsoft has is the more attractive model, and so we need to start pivoting over that way. And we need the infrastructure in streaming technology, and we need to partner, even if those people are our enemies, so to speak. So like, Sony's in this weird position where I'm just like, I'm gonna be real with you. I've had this conversation with Luke a couple nights back. I'm like, is Sony gonna end up being bought out in 10 or so years by a bigger company? Chances are, I don't know. I'm not a business person. Like, to me, PlayStation is almost a third. It will be a third of the profit of that entire company. So there is a lot of things writing. The interesting strategy here is that Sony needs this to be a success. They need PlayStation 5 to be a success. And I'm thinking they're willing to do whatever it takes to continue that success from the PS4 to PS5. Xbox wants it. They're hungry for it. And that's the two differing strategies. They're both billion-dollar companies. At the end of the day, they make billions of dollars. They could both sell these things for a nickel. They'll be fine for a few months. But it is about business at the end of the day. Who needs this more? We're going to see that come June, July, August, September, October, November. Like that is the interesting thing here. Is if we get out of our camps for a second and we try to look at it, it's far more interesting than like.
I will say this to add to your point, Mr. Badbit. Why I'm smiling as a gamer from ear to ear is because this year, in a year that was supposed to be the greatest year in gaming, and it's going to be looked upon as the worst year in human history. Right. Mm-hmm. That's what 2020 is going to be remembered by. And this year, on top of all the sadness the world has faced, we are in a position where something as simple as a console launch is going to bring so much joy to us as human beings, right? And as gamers, regardless of what flag you fly, and I said this before and I'll say it again, I think that this generation is going to be, maybe not this year, maybe not even in 2021, because we're going to still be recovering, but maybe in 2022, we're going to see this new generation with the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X and S, and the potential of the Switch Pro, which I believe is a thing. We're going to be in a position as gamers to be the first time in many, many, many years that multiple consoles are going to be played in a home. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily because of the pricing. I think that because all three companies are going to be bringing such incredible and unique experiences to their fans. Right. And the way that you have to look at this is, when Sony was being dragged in the dirt during the PlayStation 3 era, they became better because Microsoft was great, right? Fast forward to 2013, Microsoft dropped the ball, and they were being dragged in the mud. The reason why Microsoft is potentially so good and is going to have so many incredible experiences is because how good Sony was with their first-party games. They understand that first parties, they sell consoles.
Master Yoda said, failure, the greatest teacher that there is.
That's a great point. Very simply, not to sound like a prophet or anything, but that's a great point. Failure is a great teacher. And you know what? I'm going to say this. We've already surpassed 90 minutes. And, I've had an amazing time. I know Mr. Badbit had Brad Pitt. I say Brad Pitt. Oh, wow. That's a fake Brad Pitt. I love it.
Like Dragon Ball Z thing. We're gonna turn into one person.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, Brad, having Brad Sams a part of today's program was awesome. We had we're sitting in almost 350 people here, and that's amazing. Again, this is a show that happens during the day, and it is a bonus episode for this week. You will get 4 live shows, and tonight, don't forget to tune in. I'm going to be a guest with Noof Nukem at Gaming After Dark with Primal Eve at, I believe it's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A little late for me, but that's fine because it's an adult show. And tune in tonight to hear that live. We're going to be talking a lot of really interesting things, and we'll probably get some sexual innuendos in there, of course, because it is Noof Nukem and Primal Eve, so you can almost expect that's going to happen.
Circulating in the rear, and bam.
Percolating in the rear. That is going to be remembered just as much as alien penis from the other day, which is still very funny to say. Real quick, Eagles fan 76. Thank you so much for being here, dude. And of course, he shows his outstanding generosity with a $5 super chat and says this: $400 Series X has to have purpose for them to offer it at that price. Can that price get them to 300 million Game Pass subs in 18 months? They gave away Windows 10. I mean, it's a great point, and I don't see that happening. I see $499, $299 for Microsoft, $499 for Sony, and we'll all figure it out. But you know what, Mr. Bad, but this has been a great show as always. And I love having you a part of this program. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, because you are quite active on Twitter, which I love. But more importantly, tell people where they can find the best PlayStation show known as the Trophy Room, run by you, my friend.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So first and foremost, let me get up, because sometimes when I'm like, let me shout out what this episode is, it's already like a couple days divorced from it, and I forget what we talk about. So first and foremost, you can find me at Mr. Badbit on Twitter. Just call me Badbit though, because that's my dad's name. Or you can find PS Trophy Room on Twitter as well. You can find my shows on Bad Bit Games. We talk about all things game news, reviews, and unboxings on YouTube. Again, Bad Bit Games. And that's where I host the video portion of the Trophy Room. So if you like PlayStation talk without all the PlayStation craziness, maybe some craziness, just an awesome conversation with my best friend Kyle each and every Thursday, go check out that show. It's my pride and joy. It's my little baby. And yeah, you can find the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, on iTunes, on Google Play, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us there. So there you go. That's my whole shtick.
Well, listen, dude, once again, thank you so much for being here. Super appreciate you bringing your expertise and, of course, sense and sensibility to the shows that you were on. Obviously, you're going to be back on Thursday and Friday, for that matter. Thursday, we will be returning with the regular casting crew for the Xbox Factor podcast. That's going to include Mr. Badbit, myself, Zemi Games, and Insipid Ghost. And we have a ton of really great topics that I've already written. And it's going to be a great show. And of course, Friday morning's Breakfast with Boom is going to be stacked with talent, because not only are you going to have myself being there, Mr. Badbit, once again, you're going to have a BitCloud Gaming, and also the 2 big guests for the day are going to be King David, as well as iDizzy, who's going to be making his first appearance. Oh, and my goodness, there's actually a 6th person, which I totally forgot about. Crispy Bomb will be returning to the panel once again to give us his raspy voice and talk about chainsawing the F out of people. So yes, so that's going to be your panel. Big stacked panel. 2 big shows coming up, and we're not even at Wednesday yet. For crying out loud, this is going to be an amazing week, and we don't even know what's happening tomorrow with Jeff Keighley. So stay tuned for that. And I want to thank everybody for being here. Of course, I want to say a big thank you for the people that donated to Super Chat. It is really humbling and unbelievable how you vote with your dollar and your wallet, and it really is something that at every dollar that I get, I'm always very shocked, because I do this for fun, and I'm really truly blessed with this community, and you're obviously enjoying the content, and that, as a content creator, makes me very happy. So listen, folks, have a great day. Enjoy whatever gaming system you're playing. Have fun. Get on social media. Talk about, what steaks you made, what fajitas you made, what games you're playing, where you're going to be hanging out, and just have fun with one another. And I'll close out the show with something that my father taught me when we were kids, and I think it's more important now than ever, and that is treat others how you yourself want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you are going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you this Thursday on the new and hot and tasty episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. See you later, guys.